Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to the Coaching Corner. Please let me know that you can hear me. Everything is sounding good. Just say I can hear you. Let me know where you are in the world. For those of you who are tuning in, you're new to tuning in. My name is Jamila, aka the IEP Coach. This is the Coaching Corner. We go live every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we talk about all things special education. And I got some stuff to talk with you guys about because I've had a lot of calls and I've had so many parents share this with information with me. And I'm like, wait a second, they can't do that. So share this live out with everyone you know that has a child that has an IEP. So a caregiver, parent, share out this live, share out the live, share out the live. And as I'm telling you to share it out, I'm sharing it out as well. I hope everyone had an amazing, amazing day. Oh, the weather is gorgeous. The weather is gorgeous. So I hope everyone was able to get outside and get some sun. I want to make sure that, I'm live on all platforms. Making sure we're live on Instagram. I want to make sure. So let's go ahead, share out the live, share out the live. Okay, I think I have to reconnect our Instagram again because some reason it was not going live. Let's try this again because we're live everywhere else. Okay, copy. And we're gonna go back. I wish it all was just on one thing. Let me edit this. Okay. Okay, I have to remove Instagram and then I have to add Instagram back. Okay. Save changes. We should be going live in a minute or two on Instagram. So I'm just going to give that a minute to connect. There it is. We are live on our Instagram. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So let's go ahead and share it out. Share out the live. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from. Let me know. So while you're putting in the chat, in the comments, where you're tuning in from, I have to tell you guys. So I've done, as you all know, at the IEP Coach, we provide services to schools, professional development coaching, and we provide services to parents, right? So some of the calls we've had with parents, they're getting consultation service because they need some advice. And a lot of parents that we've come across, they're sharing a similar experience. So their child is transferring to another school or has transferred to a school. They already have an IEP, but then when they transfer to the school, they are being told, oh, your child don't need this related service. Like they're coming with related services in their IEP. And then they're being told, oh, your child don't need this related service no more. And then that related service is being removed. But I'm like, one, that is illegal. You can't do that. Two, you don't just remove anything from an IEP without any data to back up the removal. So I was like, I have to do a live about this. I have to come on and talk to you guys about this. So again, share out this live with as many people as possible. All parents that you know that have children with IEPs, share this out with them. Guardians, parents, share it out with them because I've had too many parents tell me share a similar experience with me, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. So I was just like, oops. I said, let me make sure I go live and I share this with everybody. Okay? So let's make sure. Share it out. I'm going to give you another minute to share it out because I don't want nobody to miss anything. Okay? I don't want you to miss nothing. All right? Okay. So here we go. When your child has an IEP, everything in that IEP has to be followed no matter where they go. No matter where they go. No matter what school they go to, that IEP has to be followed. And that includes all the goals, that includes all the related services. They have to be followed no matter what school. If they let's say you start at one school, you start in a school district and you go to a charter school, they have to follow that IEP and implement the services in that IEP. If you leave one state and you move to another state, they have to follow everything in that IEP that's in that IEP. All the services, goals, everything, they have to follow that IEP. There's nothing to get around. You have to follow it. Okay? You have to follow it. So, there is no, oh, we're going to remove this service from your kid's IEP. Or we're going to remove this service because we don't have that here. No, you don't just remove anything from an IEP. You don't do that at all. That is illegal. Parents, I want you to know that is not allowed. That is illegal. You cannot do that. You cannot just remove services from an IEP, and don't let anyone tell you that they can just remove something from the IEP without having data to back it up. And you may say, well, what data do I need? Let me explain it to you. So, when your child has an IEP and they go to a new school, all those services have to be followed, correct? Yes. Put in a chat, yes, they have to be followed. Your child has an IEP, all the services have to be followed. Put yes in the comments. Yes, yes, yes. Put yes in the comments. They have to be followed. Okay? Now, anytime something's going to be added to the IEP or taken away from the IEP, you have to have data to support that. So if a student has speech in their IEP and it's found that they no longer need speech, the speech pathologist will have data and testing information to back up and support why speech will need to be removed. It will be documented in the IEP, and it will have all the data. All the data will show that the student has mastered their speech goals. They're doing very well. They no longer need speech, and the speech pathologist will have his or her data in the IEP to prove that. Okay? And it's not just going to be, a day or two of data. No, it's going to be weeks of data. Okay? We have come across so many parents where they have transferred their child to another school and the new school has removed a service from the IEP, and that is illegal. You cannot do that. Okay? Anytime a service is being removed from an IEP or added to an IEP, you have to have data to back it up. Let me give you another example. Let's say a student is having a lot of trouble, and I'll just say a lot of academics, they need a lot of academic support. Now, and it may be in reading or something, and we want to add some more reading support to their IEP. The case manager and teachers who instruct that student, we have to have weeks, at least 6 weeks of data to support why this student will need additional support added to their IEP. We don't just add things to the IEP. We got to have data to support that. Okay? Always have data to support it. And again, it's never just a week or two. No, it's weeks of data, at least 6 weeks. So don't let anyone tell you, we don't have that service here, so we took it off. No, if your child is at a school and they don't have your child's service, like for example, speech or occupational therapy, you have two choices, parents. You have to find a school that has the services for them, or you have to contact your SPED director and principal because they have to contract those services for your student. There are a lot of charter schools, they contract occupational therapy, speech therapy, speech therapists, they contract them out. Those contractors come to the school, they service the students, and then they go on their way. They have contracts with those charter schools to service students. When you're in a school district, they tend to hire their own speech pathologists, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists. They tend to hire their own, so they are hired through the district. Okay? So, all your information, anything, speech, OT, any services being added, you have to have data to support why it's being removed, why it is being added. Okay? Do not allow anyone to tell you, oh, we removed that service. Oh, we just took it off the IEP. No, there is no just taking anything off an IEP. No. You do not do that. That is not acceptable. That is illegal. Parents, please pay attention when you transfer your child to a new school. When you transfer your child, if you going from a public school in a school district and you're going to a new school district in another state, or it could be a completely different district, they're going to do, especially if it's in a different school district, they are going to do an evaluation under their school district. So they're going to and they're going to take into account all the information from your child's current IEP, everything. Make sure the services that was in that IEP when they came is in that new IEP. Okay, you're gonna have to advocate for your child to make sure they keep their services. If they go from a public school and they go to a charter school, parents, you have to make sure the information that was in that IEP, the services that was in that IEP when they arrived, it is still in that IEP. If you have not seen any documentation to show that your child no longer needs that service from that provider, that service should still be in the IEP. Okay. Oh, we have someone here. It says hiding in here, transitioning from elementary to middle school. They are wanting to evaluate for qualification. So it doesn't matter if your child is in middle school and they go to if they go from elementary school to middle school. If your child still has an IEP at the end of elementary school, which normally is around 5th grade, and I know in some districts elementary ends at 4th. If your child still has an IEP, that IEP will go with them to middle school. Now, it's important that when you know your child is transitioning from an elementary school setting to a middle school setting, it's important for the case managers to communicate so that way that IEP that they have going that goes with them to the middle school, it transitions with them. It transitions the student to how services are at the middle school level. Okay, so like for example, I was an emotional support teacher, and our check-in and check-out was different than how the emotional support teacher in the elementary school did check-in check-out. So I constantly would talk with the elementary school principal, 6th grade, elementary, because in my district elementary ended at 6. I constantly talk with him. And I was telling him, make sure you put this in the IEP. Make sure you put weekly in the IEP. Make sure you say check in, check out in section 6 of the IEP, because that's how we word it in middle school. Make sure it says we had to change the language of some things so that way it aligned with the language we used in middle school. So there is no different qualification. No, if your child has an IEP at the end of elementary, they going into middle school with an IEP, they continue with that IEP. It is very crucial and important for the case manager in middle school and the case manager elementary to have a conversation so that way that IEP and that student transitions as they go to the new school, the language will transition with them as well. So it's not like you're in middle school and you're implementing things that function well in elementary and not in a middle school. Okay, that will help the transition be way smoother. Okay, so again, there is no removing services from an IEP with no data to support why you are doing that change. Okay, there's none of that. You always have to have data to support why you're adding a service or why you are removing a service. Okay. All right. So that's all I want to talk with you guys about today. I want to remind you guys our free webinar is next Thursday, from request to results, how to request IEP evaluations. We are going to give you tips in our webinar, and we got some bonuses for you. I can't tell you what the bonuses are because you got to register and you got to attend the webinar so that way you can get the bonuses. So I am going to drop the link for the free webinar here in the comments. I am dropping it here in the comments. All right. So if you are on Instagram, I'm going to drop it. Make sure you click the link in our bio. If you're on Instagram, the link is in our bio. It is free to register. It is free to register. So make sure you register. Make sure you show up. You can share it with someone, with a parent, with a caregiver, because this webinar, it is for you parents and you caregivers that you had, so that way you know how to do these IEP evaluation requests. Oh, it looks like we got a question. Hold up. We have a question. Let me go to the comments. All right, we got a question. Let me. Okay. Okay. So here we go. If a school, sorry, I'm just reading your question. Okay, so from Neil, if a school doesn't have the service that is in an IEP, a legal contract must be provided. They have to, yes, the school has to provide that service. Yes, Neil, thank you. So if your child is at a school and they don't have the service, for example, they don't have a speech pathologist, or they don't have an occupational therapist, or they don't have a physical therapist, and that service is listed in your child's IEP, the school, it has to be provided. The school has to contract out for that service so that way your child can be serviced at the school. Okay? That is not an excuse. Oh, we don't have speech here. We don't have OT here. That's not an excuse. That school has to contract out. There are several agencies that contract out speech pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists. There are a lot of places that schools, especially charter schools, that they can contract with, so that way they can get the services in their school. So that is no excuse. Okay? Thank you so much for your question. Okay? So again, I'm going to drop the link for the free webinar so that you guys can register. Do share it with your parents and caregivers of children with IEPs, because we're gonna go give you steps on how to make these requests. Because a lot of times we get, well, how do I make the request? How do I go about doing it? We're going to show you. Okay, we are going to show you how to do it. All right. Does anybody have any questions before we sign off? Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to give you a minute to get your questions in. I know it takes a minute to type. Do you have any questions? Let me know in the comments. Any questions at all? Assalamu alaikum, sis. Is the funding being given? Hold on one second. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam, Nejma. Thank you for tuning in. Is the funding being given for these schools to cater to the IEP programs? So, great question, Nejma. So, schools, charter schools, and public schools, they all receive money for students that have IEPs in their schools. So every school that has students with IEPs, they can bill for the services that they provide at the school. And the state, they get money from the state for the students that have IEPs. So they do get money for special education students. Now, that money is to be used to support their special education programming. So if they need any intervention programs, anything like that, anything like the teachers need, the students need, they can provide it. It may be equipment that they need for a student. They can use those funds to use that. Also, there's different title money that can be used for professional development for teachers. It can be used for assistive technology. There's a lot of different funding sources that can be used for for schools. Now, but when it comes to like contracting out other services, the school just have to contact an agency and see if they have any providers available, and they can have a contract with that agency, so that way that agency can have their related service providers provide the service at the schools. I used to do it when I used to work at a charter school. We had got a list of the approved providers for the charter network, and then the SPED supervisor, we had to contact that particular agency to see if they had any providers, speech, OT, physical therapy, that could accommodate the students at our school. So again, it's no excuses for these schools at all. Okay, that's good to know. Thanks for answering. No problem. Thank you for your question. I appreciate it. Anybody else have questions? Please, if you think of your question later, feel free. You can DM us. We are consistent on our social media at the IEP Coach LLC on all platforms. We are very responsive and we will respond to you. Or you can email us your question and we'll get back to you as well. If there aren't any more questions, like I always say, be kind to yourself, be safe, and give yourself grace. Make sure you register for our free webinar, From Request to Results, how to make IEP evaluation requests. This is for all the parents and caregivers. So share out the link. I'm going to post the link one more time. Share it out. And I will see you guys next Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You have an amazing, amazing evening.